Good evening, United Kingdom. It is 10 o'clock. My name is Toby Lepati Mesme, and this is episode 16 of MesmePolitics. Coming up next, Diane Abbott, Keir Starmer's leadership, and the upcoming Batley and Spen by-election. But first, UK railways UK trains back under state control. So rail passengers have been promised a better and more efficient service under the biggest shake-up in decades. A new state-owned body under the name of Great British Railways, of course, GBR, will set timetables and prices, sell tickets in England and manage rail infrastructure. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said it would replace an overcomplicated and fragmented system, telling the BBC the changes did not mean fares would inevitably rise, but could not give guarantees. Asked on the Today programme if the changes meant rising ticket prices, Mr Shapps said no is the answer, but I'm not here to give you guarantees for years to come. Labour said there were little substance behind the plans. So, what does this mean? How significant is it? Well, if you look at the advocacy group for public ownership, We Own It, what they say is quite right. This is not rail nationalisation. This is not public democratic ownership of the railways, as should be the case in a 21st century economy. What it is nominal state control. It's state control in name only, right? The first thing this does for the government is it looks good. People really want publicly owned railways. You look at the polling, out of all the measures in Jeremy Corbyn's 2017 and 2019 manifestos, the most popular one, with almost ubiquitous public appeal, we're talking like 70-80%, is nationalisation of Britain's railways. That is the single most popular policy. People aren't happy with how they're run. That frustration is being felt and coming out in an aversion and an anger at the privatised system. Consumers think this. It was a big boon for the Tories when they fully nationalised Northern Rail, brought it under the purview of the Department of Transport fully. So this, for people, whatever the realities of it, does actually sound like a better deal. And in terms of appearances, seeing the government doing this makes them look pragmatic, it makes them look like absolutely not the same old Tories, and it makes them look like they're interested in non-ideological fixes that the traditional sort of flaming Thatcherite Tories wouldn't have gone anywhere near. Now, none of that's strictly true, but that's how it looks. And it does, again, it makes the sort of Labour attacks on the same old Tories look more and more ridiculous. Because this is not same old Tories. This isn't candy and rainbows, but we're seeing the government doing things that go against their ideological convictions. However, John McDonnell put this very well. It is a nicked policy from Corbyn era Labour. The centre ground is now defined on that terrain. However, they've gone halfway. They've done halfway again, and any future genuinely progressive government would need to finish the job and bring these things under proper, full public control. Cut out the greedy middleman of the private sector completely, publicly owned, democratically accountable, joined up system. Now, there are a number of problems with the current system. One of them is addressed in these measures. These measures are an attempt to rescue and resuscitate from the dead the privatised system. We're going to keeping the privatised system in place and making a reform they don't want to make, but that will make it more amenable to the public, right? It's a concession to prevent calls for full nationalisation becoming overwhelming. And this will be the new status quo for a good few years in this country, I would imagine. Because this will take the heat off people pushing the government to go for full nationalisation. Although, of course, that has to be the demand, and we need to put that case out there. And any future Labour manifesto, any Green manifesto, any Lib Dem manifesto, although I doubt they will, for ideological reasons, need to have as a bedrock commitment, publicly owned, genuinely democratically publicly owned rail, locally accountable, democratically accountable. That's what we have to do. And however much we need to invest in the railways and make the service excellent and universal for citizens, and not look at citizens in this context as consumers of a product, look at them as citizens using a public service. Right? Public transport is a public service, the railways are a public service. It's still not being looked at that way. However, One of the big issues, all the issues with privatisation, not been dealt with here. One of them has. That's the fragmentation. What this is going to do is it's going to bring it all under one umbrella. So although we're socialising the risks and we're privatising the wins and the good aspects of it, again, not good. We'll still see underinvestment. We'll still see the thing flagging. However, one big thing that people will feel the benefit of, and again, will make people look favourably on the government, because people aren't going to, distinguish between, is it fully nationalised or not? It sounds like nitpicking. What it is it's taken out the fragmentation. It's all joined up. It's all unified. That's a big thing. That's a positive. However, it's being done. Okay, so we're now half privatised instead of fully privatised, if you like. And finally today, Keir Starmer should stand down as Labour leader if the party loses the upcoming Batley and Spend by-election. Senior members of Jeremy Corbyn's front bench have suggested. Diane Abbott said the failure in the West Yorkshire stronghold could spell curtains for Starmer. Said that failure, not the failure. It's not happened. Following the humiliating loss of Hartlepool. And she suggested that the party's left could swing behind Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham as an alternative leader. Meanwhile, Rebecca Long-Bailey, who lost out on the Labour succession to Starmer in 2020, said there would have to be serious discussions around the leadership if Batley and Spen fell to the Tories. Now, I have been up front saying Starmer needs to sink or swim on his own terms in an election. However, I do agree, if the two back-to-back by-elections like this are lost, that is, to my knowledge, unprecedented, and there would have to be those questions raised. I think it would be time to go for a leadership challenge, and I think much of the Labour Party, beyond the left, right, beyond the Socialist campaign group, will say, my God, we're going to lose our seats. We've got to deal with this, right? Diane Abbott, very interesting intervention on Andy Burnham. I don't trust Andy Burnham. Keir Starmer ran on a soft left platform. In many ways, some aspects of it, a radical left platform. And see how he's behaving as leader, right? So how do you know Andy Burnham won't do the same thing? That's why I don't trust that. Say, Andy Burnham, would he perform better electorally? Maybe be less hostile? Sure, perhaps. However, the left shouldn't, be like Andy Burnham's the saviour. First of all, he's not an MP. Second of all, he could be Prime Minister, but I have no idea what he'd do when he got the levers of power. Would he lurch to the right? Wholly plausible. Would he wage factional warfare on the left? And maybe he has more conviction and he won't sort of be pulled along by these new Labour apparatchiks. However, highly possible. Wholly possible. That's why I think the left backing him, it really does show the institutional weakness of the left at the moment, right? Rayner, Burnham. Two future leaders potentially, depending on what happens, but neither of them, in my view, can be trusted by the left. And while we'll work constructively with them if they become leader, or of course the Labour left would, especially if they weren't factional and attacking everyone like Starmer, and maybe one of them would potentially be a genuine soft left leader instead of a pretends to be soft left then lurches to the hard right like Starmer. While that's, possible, it's also very much not possible. I do think the left needs a horse in the race. I do think that horse should be John McDonnell. Anything can happen. I don't think Long Bailey has the institutional heft in the party to win. I don't think Ian Lavery, unfortunately, has the institutional heft in the party to win. I think John McDonnell would be a really strong candidate. And I think he is the de facto leader of the left. And I think he should stand. If this is the situation, I think that should be what he should do. He's a technocrat. He knows what he's doing. He's ruthless. He's smart. He's strategic. If Jeremy Corbyn was the campaigner, John McDonnell is the consummate politician. Someone once described him as the hard man of the hard left. And that ain't a bad thing when you're dealing with the Labour Party. So I think John McDonnell should be the candidate the left swing behind. I think the left should work with figures of the soft left. If a soft left leader comes in and they're more amenable and cooperative with the left than Starmer's been, excellent, brilliant. A lot of the Labour left will be satisfied. However, I think backing them really puts you in danger. Although the argument is it puts you in their coalition, although Starmer had ex-Corbyn officials in his office. And look what he's done. Anyway, that's it from me today. I'll be back same time, same place tomorrow with more MesmePolitics. I've been Toby Lepati Mesme. Thank you for joining me. Good night.